Hey, what's up, friends? Mark Allred here to tell you a little bit about my live looping rig. A little bit of backstory. I come from having played for over 10 years in Hawaii with a ska punk band. And in about 2012, I moved from Hawaii to Virginia. During that first year of living in Virginia, I wasn't playing music with a band. I wasn't playing any kind of music. And my wife turned to me, and I exaggerate this part. She said, "You've become a horrible person. I want my musician husband back." And so I had to figure out how to play music again without my band. And I didn't want to have to start a whole new band again. So I started learning about people like Dub Effects, Reggie Watts, Bernhoft, and a bunch of other live loopers. And I learned how to do live looping myself. I played on the streets for about a year to figure out how to use a Boss RC30. Got really good at it and started developing my own sound and how I wanted to do stuff. So over the years, my rig has changed significantly. Started with a Boss RC30, used the RC300 for over 5 years, and now I'm using the RC600. So let's talk about what I'm using for 2023. I just dialed in exactly the rig that I want to use this year, and it's a change from what I've used for the last few years. What I have used for the last few years is this. For the last few years, I've used the Helix. This is a monster of a rig. This does all the effects processing you could ever want for anything. Big name guys like the Edge from U2 use setups like this. It has more than I will ever need in my life to do these things. And that was my biggest problem, was that it was too much for what I needed. And to be honest, it's not roadworthy. This effects pedal was meant to be kind of a wah pedal, an expression pedal. It crapped out. So I ended up getting an external. So this was an external for my wah that I would use. And some of these buttons, the lights and the actual response, crapped out on me. So I wasn't happy with this, and I couldn't dial in exactly what I wanted. Granted, a large part of that's probably me. It's a beast of a machine with so much power. It was just overwhelming, but I did use it for a really long time, and it did great things, but I'm no longer using this anymore. Let me show you what I am using now. This is my rig that I'm gonna use from now on for 2023. Let me take you from the beginning of my signal chain and route you all the way through it. Still using my killer Telecaster over there. For years I've used that one. So using the Tele, this is where my signal chain's gonna start. I use a wireless Boss delayed G30, line 6. That way I can be mobile all over the stage. I usually don't do anything, just set it and forget it. Sometimes if I'm playing on stage with anyone else who's doing anything wireless, I check the channel to make sure we're not on the same channel, but I don't ever really touch that guy. I go straight from here to my tuner. So I got the TC Electronic. I love this PolyTuner, really small footprint, and it lights up great. You do that, you can see that on, you'll always be able to see that on the stage. So I go from this, top of the chain, comes to my Micro-Tron 4, my envelope filter. I have struggled to really find a killer envelope filter reggae tone, and I've finally found the right place in my signal chain and the right pedal to give me the exact sound I want to try and get as close to traditional Bob Marley, old school reggae envelope filter tones. These are the settings that I have finally found. That much gain, that much peak, that much level, and I'm doing it on HP, on low. And then depending on how much I dial up the level really gives me some killer tone. And I did notice that putting it at the top of my chain changed the tone power significantly. I used to keep it kind of at the end, and I looked at a lot of different layouts and suggestions on where to put this in the chain, and for some reason it didn't respond well for me until I got it here. And also the cables, the patch cables, matter for this guy significantly. I upgraded to these great patch cables. Pancakes, I don't know the brand name off the top of my head. See if I can get, okay, there we go. What do we got? Eminence. These are great ones, and they even have like long ones. They have a whole kind of range, a variety of lengths that you can use. So I'm starting with the Micro-Tron 3. I don't use the up down, it's just on and off. And those are my settings that I keep it at. Next is my Strymon El Capistan, my delay. I have used so many different delay pedals. I've used Boss DD6 for a really, really long time. I've used Line 6 stuff. I've used the Helix delays. I could never get really happy with the tone and the response. It has to have a responsive tap tempo, and I have to be able to affect the eighth note, the dotted eighth note, the quarter note repeats, and the duration of the repeats. And I love on this one, when I play, and as the delays are fading out, when you hold down this guy, it just gives you an increased repeat feedback at the end. And then when you let go, it kills it. Love that feature. For reggae stuff, that's a really, really fun feature to have. And then the whole modeling options that are up here and the modes and whatnot, this is a computer. This is a really complex and powerful pedal. Highly recommend this. And that's what I couldn't really get out of the Helix, was the delay. And I use it so much that I couldn't be happy with the Helix. So I'm really stoked on this. Next, we go from here to a regular Crybaby. So that guy's right in the middle. Specifically put it after my digital delay, because I love how with the wah, if I have this one on, I can control the tone of the delay by having it here. If I put it after, I can't control a sweep on top of the delay. So this combo of delay before the wah, killer and priceless. Love that. Nothing fancy about this, regular Crybaby. So from the Crybaby, we go to my Sansmp Distortion modeling. I've had this for years and years, well over a decade. It is one of the best distortion pedals I've ever had. I love the options and features that it has down here. You can dial in a lot of great stuff. Okay, and then we go from here to this. This is new to me, and I love it. As a live looper, I'm often just going through the house. I'm not going into a guitar amp. And there's a lot of reasons for that, because I'm dealing with a bass tone, I'm dealing with vocal looping tones and whatnot, so I can't go through a guitar amp solely, and it causes a lot of problems. So being able to control that this is just a guitar amp here and then everything feeds into it, this has been a game changer for me. And if you haven't played with this one, go watch more videos directly on this. You have so many options for specific amps that you can model. You can do an AC30 tone, you can do a Marshall tone. I basically have a Fender kind of clean deluxe reverb tone coming out of it. But I'm gonna show you another reason why this one is so powerful to me too. This one you can save a favorite setting that you can switch back and forth to. So right now, it's responding to what's on the dials. Hit fave, and that's something that's preloaded that it'll recall. So I can bounce back and forth. As a live looper who loops a guitar and a bass tone, this is critical. So right here, fave, I'm recalling my Fender Deluxe tone that I had set previously. When I take it off, it's set to what's here. And if you look at those settings, that's a bass cab. That's a bass tone. So I go from here, from these settings, to this octave pedal. I only do octave down, no octave up, no dry signal. I combine these two, this with that, like that. I've got a bass. I can turn my guitar into a bass guitar, and it's epic. Being able to have the EQ options here, based upon whatever kind of PA I have, I tweak this. I don't mess with this. But this is my bass rig. What I really did love, the one thing I will give the Helix, is that on the Helix, you can dial in a specific bass cab speakers and a bass amp along with an octave pedal. That was the best bass tone I ever had, ever. Can't do that here. This is the closest I can get. What I actually did try to do I tried to get a bass modeling pedal and combined it with the Electro Hamonix Octave pedal, and it didn't do much better than the Iridium Strymon. You know, I messed with that for a while. I had an Atomic Amps bass box pedal, and it had a lot of options on that pedal, but I couldn't really dial in anything better than the Iridium. So in the end, I returned that pedal, and I'm sticking with this, and I really, really love it. All right, so there's that. And last in my guitar chain is a boost. Also, I used to run that pedal up here at the front just because they both took up very little space and it worked well. But I realized by putting it down here, it completely changed the power of that pedal. There is so much more dynamic power. I have it turned down to like almost zero when I use it. I was just fooling with it. I usually keep it just like that. Turning that on, boom, that's more than enough. I almost never dial it up. Having it at the very end of my chain, it makes that pedal super powerful. I've tried variations of where to locate it in the signal chain, and that is the most powerful. And so from there, that one goes into the RC600. Taking me a long time to dial this in. I thought it was glitchy. Nope, it's just a lot more powerful than the RC300, and I had to spend more time dialing it in. It's fantastic now. I love it. Okay, so that's the end of my guitar signal chain. What are these two? So this is a channel switcher for the XLR. This takes my direct line from my microphone. It makes it so I only need one mic to switch between a vocal mic that runs to my PA and a microphone that runs to my looper. So right now it's set up to run into the PA, boom, this number 2 runs to my looper. But what happens is that the dynamic setup for this input is not fantastic for vocal beatboxing or vocal looping. You need to have some kind of an EQ. And I looked and looked and looked for a great vocal EQ stomp box that I could use, and I could never find anything decent. So I splurged. That's the JHS color box. It's a Neve board emulator with lots of EQ capability. So when I run this actually goes directly into here, and then it comes out, and then it goes here. So that guy is always on. I always have that pedal on, and then I just switch it here, back and forth between the PA and the looping through that JHS. So 2 more key things for this rig that are really important to me this go around that I never really knew about or cared about before. Having a dedicated power source to be able to control all of your pedals at the right, let's see here, for the right ampage and the right everything. So I got the new Voodoo Labs 3 Plus, and I just used an old belt to strap it down. It's got 12 options. So that way each pedal has its own dedicated power source. I found out, let's see if I can find the pedal real quick. When I was running, when I was running this guy for my Octave pedal years ago, and I was using a 1-stop, it buzzed like crazy and I couldn't figure it out. It was because I was using a 1-stop. You gotta have dedicated power for each of your pedals in order to get them to operate as intended. Sometimes you'll think a pedal sucks just because you don't have the right voltage or the right ampage going to it. Make sure you're always reading that and doing it as you're supposed to. And then lastly, a major key component that coincides with that whole clean power, correct power going to your pedals is using this Furman power conditioner. So this conditions and dedicates all the power that this is being charged with. You don't want to plug into a dirty socket. You know, sometimes we play in venues where the wiring is crap and it can really affect the quality of your tone. Don't leave that up to chance. get a power conditioner. That's not just a surge protector, that's a power conditioner, along with the right power brick underneath what you got. All right, that's my combo and that's my rig rundown for 2023. Pretty excited about it. It's gonna change a lot of how I do things. All right, until next time, my friends.